Hey folks, hacking this and that, back again with another video, and this time we're going to talk about data-only hotspots, or more specifically, what some people in the community seem to be calling the gaming hotspots. But before I dive into that, let me give you a little context here. I am sitting in the basement of a 200-year-old stone building. I happen to run sensors here, and in the process of having to add some additional hotspots, more specifically data-only hotspots, to this particular building to add additional coverage. Now, this building used to exist back in the days of Prohibition. This here is believed to be part of a network of tunnels that ran underneath the city that connected pubs, hotels, churches during the Prohibition days. And I bring that up because it's a part of North American history that is believed to be somewhat controversial around whether or not a law around consumption of alcohol should ever existed. But it was a law, and consumption of alcohol, transportation of alcohol during that period of time was against the law. It didn't take long for all of this to get flipped back on its head, and we all become a bunch of raging alcoholics, or at least that was the fear. But my point being is we need to be careful about how we refer to the usage of data credits on the Helium network in large volume, as abnormal as it might be, as being some form of illegal cheating or gaming. Because frankly, without any factual evidence, it's all bullshit. So let's be realistic. We are building a network that allows people like me to buy a sensor, buy data credits, burn those data credits for the movement of data, and for somebody to receive that data credit, and thus be rewarded in HNT. That is the purpose of this network. Now, if I decide to buy 100, let's say, humidity and water sensors and deploy them within this building cannot get a signal penetrated through the foundation to the outside world, where that signal could be received by a hotspot literally across the street. It can't even get it 5 stories up to the hotspot that I have on the roof. So adding a data-only hotspot is a cheap way to go, and B, relatively simple in the fact that they existed before Helium. Data-only hotspots are just LoRaWAN gateways. They were here before Helium. They'll be here for the foreseeable future. We've just figured out a way to turn around and put a gateway application on it that allows us to meter data consumption and reward for it. So there's nothing nefarious about a data-only hotspot. It doesn't participate in proof of coverage. The fact that you actually have to assert a location only came about late last year, when it was needed in order to have the gateway know what frequency band it's supposed to use based on where it is. So I'd put down, let's say, 5 hotspots in this building. It's a fairly large building. It's stone pile walls like this. Signal doesn't go through them well. So let's say I have to put them, several around this. And I decide that I want my sensors to transmit at 60-second interval, only because these Draginos don't do less than 60 very well. There is nothing that I am doing that is illegal or nefarious or gaming or cheating if the data that I am spending on my sensors happens to be received by my hotspot. The guy across the street can't offer me coverage Why should he get reward for it? Like, let's be realistic about this. We're not doing anything unbecoming towards the network or to its operators, its infrastructure, partners, whatever you want to call people who own hotspots. They just aren't able to support my need as a sensor owner for what I am trying to do here. So let's brush away all of the BS, and maybe some of it's just lost in translation. And I understand that we are running a global network, which means communicating in English often requires people to think about the words that they're trying to use, and maybe they're jumping to choosing words that mean one thing or come with a stigma that is interpreted by others. So let's just call it what it is. It is an unusual high volume of data transfer occurring between somebody's sensors and somebody's hotspots. This is what we've built this network for. And if that concerns you, then you might want to reevaluate how long you're going to be in this project, because it's only going to get more crazy in the future. The thing that seems to draw people's attention to it is all of a sudden there's a hotspot that has a high reward value on some website that tries to measure hotspot performance by reward value, and people are going, whoa, whoa, whoa. If I'm only making 0.3 HNT a day and this dude's pulling a full HNT a day on a data-only hotspot, he must be cheating. No, it's just data, and somebody's bought it in volume, and somebody's burning it in volume, and somebody's receiving it in volume. This is what this network is for. So how do we know that there isn't some exploit going on? Well, as a moderator on the Discord, I have the opportunity to hear what I'll call hallway conversations. So you're walking down the hallway at your office and you happen to hear a couple people talking about the football game last weekend. That's what I mean by a hallway conversation. I happen to see a number of conversations between Nova staff, Foundation staff that have looked at this, that have done an earnest sort of, does this look like somebody has found an exploit? At this moment, we don't think that there's any reason to believe that there is an exploit. Is it unusual? Yes. Are we able to identify what they're doing? No. That is the point of an anonymous, permissionless network. I don't have to tell you who I am, and I don't have to tell you what I'm doing with my sensors. As long as I buy my DC, I burn my DC, and my data goes where I want it to go. That's how this network works. So let's put the witch hunt aside. Let's put the pitchforks back in the fields, and the witch burning will have to happen later. If you're genuinely interested in what's going on, I encourage you to do some genuine data investigation. Dig into ETL. Look at the things that are going on. Try to understand what might be going on. Other than knocking on their door, you may never know. But we need to stop pretending that this is an exploit of the network that is going to abuse us all. Somebody might have found a way to burn DC at a high rate. Sure, they might be doing it with stolen credit cards. That's somebody else's problem. Whoever is running the console and router that is burning that HNT, that is using those credit cards, that's their problem to solve. Maybe somebody figured out how to use helium as a replacement for Venmo, and I'm basically using it as an underground an underground network for moving money, kind of like moving booze. It might be, dodging some systems and maybe some government oversight that has regulations on it, but they're not doing it in volumes of millions of dollars. Frankly, if there was millions of dollars in HNT being burned, I think everybody would be raising an eyebrow and going, what the heck's going on here? But we're talking a few $100s or less. I haven't looked at the numbers myself, but I'm going to say maybe even in a month. So let's taper the the rage and anger and outcries a little. And like I said, if you're curious, do some investigation. But the reality is there's only so much we can dig into because this is a permissionless, anonymous network. I don't know you. You don't have to know me. I just happen to put myself out here so you can see me, and I can tell you how these things work and what good they can do. And let's get back to the focus of building a network that supports sensors and stop worrying about who's moving a little bit of HNT. All right, I'll get off my soapbox on this one. I just needed to get that out there because I'm seeing far too much of it in the Discords. I log on, in the mornings and I see people talking about it. I'm like, you know what? Log off, sign up for the day. I'd rather go watch paint dry. So with that, I'm going to leave you to do your own investigation or figure out if you can move on from it. But hopefully you're going to move on in the direction of building good coverage, usable, and frankly, if you haven't got a sensor yet, get a sensor. You got questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can always find me on the Discord, hacking this and that. Until then, I'll catch you all later.